question I have for you is MBA. I mean, it's good to have that, but how useful it is?
That's a very difficult question to answer. So I started my master's in 2009, and my master's at U of T was called the Master's of Financial Economics, which was a hybrid program between the business school, the MBA school, and then the economics school. Since that program started, that program has been very successful. But now there's so many master's level programs that are offered at all universities. When I was doing my MBA, the class size of the MBA class was a few hundred students. That's one university. So when you factor in how many universities there are and how many MBA students are graduating each year, that's thousands of MBAs. Now, you know what things like MBA and stuff do is I think when I was there in 2009 versus 2024 as we sit, knowledge has become a lot more widely available, where before, what universities did really, I think, was they gave you very good mentors in the form of professors, where if you could develop a relationship with them, they could guide you into which direction to look in. Now, what's happened is there's so many pundits and gurus online who offer all these, whether you call them guys doing sales pitches or all these master classes. I don't want to name any famous guys because that's not my style, but we all know who these famous celebrities are who give lots of business advice and things like that online that people view as implicit mentors, right? So I didn't have that because in my generation, we didn't have social media. So learning was done in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
So for me, the goal of going to school, remember, I got kicked out of university before I went back to school, right? So when I went back, I had a very clear path as to why I wanted to go. I wanted to go learn. Plus, I wanted to go prove to myself and everybody else that I'm actually as good as I think myself to be. And then I mentioned another thing, don't worry about what the title of the class is or the title of the book is. Worry about the author. If the author is good, if the professor is good, you'll learn valuable things. So if you're going to go do things like the MBA and stuff, I would emphasize putting a little bit more research on the humans who teach there, because then you will get the richness of spending time in person with these individuals. Where if you're able to develop and nurture a relationship, that could be a lifelong friendship. There's no tangible value to that, right? You're going to get an opportunity to collaborate with a cohort of brilliant, analytical, smart people. It's very difficult to put a tangible value on that. If you're looking for something as far as a career goes, a lot of folks that I graduated with in my year and 1 year up and down from my cohort at the MFE program, almost all of them are senior directors at banks around the world. So my friend circle that I go drinking with and we do dumb stuff together, they just happen to run the banks. That's because of school. Wow. So there's some of those intangible benefits that do come because let's say, if I have an MBA from a certain university, it's a good chance that when I'm looking to hire somebody, I'll probably go to that university to look for a new person because I've studied there. So I know the kind of training they provide. So I can feel confident knowing that the person coming from that school should have good training. But it's not as school dependent as it is personal dependent, because we talked about this all throughout the podcast. It's all about people. So if you have a very good relationship with some of the best faculty members or professors at your university who are top in their field, their students will be top in their field. And if they start referring you to their students, that's really where the benefit is. So it's a very difficult question to answer from a truly learning perspective. Everyone learns differently. I'm one of those guys who doesn't learn by himself. I love the pressure of a test that forces me to study.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right? Like it's just people are wired differently. I wish, like, I love reading a book for fun, but if you're going to make me study something I don't want, you better give me a test for a reason for why I want to do it. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. So for someone like myself, and if you're one of those people, then it's beneficial to have that stress of, hey, I'm paying a lot of money. I'm doing all of this. I got to do well to get a job. If that's what drives you, great. But from a strict learning perspective, I don't know. I've also been out of school for so long that I don't know how the educational system's evolved. So I'm so ignorant to certain things that I don't want to just make blind claims.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah.
And then from a relationship networking standpoint, definitely some value, but for how much it costs, you can also build up those relationships through other work and action and things that there is no one size fits all, but you're definitely not going to be shorting yourself or shortchanging yourself if you don't do this versus do it. But the key non-negotiable is you have to do something. So if you choose to not do your MBA, make sure you learn to build skills. Make sure you get really good at your job. Make sure you do something that people who are good at what they do want to start hanging out with you. Because when you get good at something, you want to be hanging out with people who are also good at it.
That's true. Wow. So my other question to you is, journey from ideation to market product fit.
Oh man, like that's something that I think is that's my secret sauce. You know what? Like one thing that I've done in my life is I just make things happen.
Interesting.
For better or for worse. Everything I've done in my life, I have an idea in my head, and I've been doing this ever since I was a kid. Like my mom shares stories of this from when I was younger. I've just been a stubborn mule and just done whatever I've wanted to if I put my mind to it. And I'm not the only one. We all can. I just choose to be relentless. I'm willing to make the sacrifices of being singular in my belief if I have to. So basically what I'm saying is if it's me versus the world, I'm not fighting the world, but again, if nobody else wants to support me, I'm okay to go at it by myself. I'm okay to just take an idea from my head and make it happen. Because remember, I think a small difference is not a huge difference. And it's not a very good difference, but I'm not focused on profitability. Right? My goal is to execute. Execute and profitability are, once you intermix those, it complicates things a little bit. Because executing anything is easy. Executing it successfully is difficult.
Interesting.
So I've executed a lot, and I've had a lot of failures. So they've not been successful executions. But what executing has taught me is how to execute. And then with experience now, I can only fail so much before failure. I don't have more opportunities to fail, or I may not have the physical energy or the resources available to continue failing. And hopefully the goal is you learn from your failures so you don't repeat the same failures again.
Yes.
So with meal deals, we bring forth, I have 25 years of experience working with restaurants and my whole background. Mario brings in 20 years of computer knowledge.
Wow.
Right? So that execution part, market part we were able to do it. So go ahead and execute, take an idea, put it on paper, make it happen. It's easy. But just remember that making it happen and making it happen profitably are two different things. I've been able to make it happen lots of times. And sometimes profits just take time to happen, right? So sometimes you can have a good idea.
Yes.
Then I actually read this. I'm very guilty of this myself. And I read this online. Somebody quoted Elon on this. And again, I don't know. One of the things with online is limited ability to adjudicate and verify how truthful the information is.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've been fairly guilty of, and this is something that Elon also talks about, and I laughed at him. I do this too. Part of it, maybe that's why I failed so much. I don't do a lot of market research.
Mm.
Because if I believe in an idea, it's one of those silly analogies. If you build it, they will come.
Mm.
Because oftentimes people don't know what they want. You know, when you ask, you know, there's all these entrepreneurial quotes. If you ask people what they wanted, they would have said a better this or better that or better, not a new product, right? Like if Henry Ford is like, if you ask people what they wanted, he would have said, oh, faster horse or like a second, you know what I mean? They would not have said, get me a car.
Yeah.
Again, I'm using very bad examples. Like Elon would not have, if Elon asked people, would you want a battery powered car? How many people would have said yes to a battery powered car until they actually saw it driving around? Just again, like the things like that. And I'm not making light because a lot of people forget that when you blindly believe or follow something that you believe in, when you blindly follow something that you believe in and go after it wholeheartedly, it can and it has the potential to fully destroy you.
Mm.
That destruction not only impacts you, but everybody that you love and care about and everybody that loves and cares about you as well.
Mm.
That's a destruction that only after you get destroyed, you realize that happens.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that trade-off, which is just this huge risk where there's nothing wrong with it. It's a great risk to take because the payoff is worth it. But just know that that risk exists. Right? So for me, sometimes like I've never really thought of asking too many people. You have to ask people to how to make him, because remember, if I'm building something for the people, they're going to be using it. It's got to be for their benefit. But if your idea is fundamentally sound, I don't do a lot of market research.
Mm.
Or if I do, it's more like, why am I doing something? If I know why I'm doing something and all my core reasons are good, everything else is like, okay, makes sense. Go for it. But don't lose track of profitability along the execution way. Start small. You can, people throw these words all the time. Again, I don't like to use a lot of jargon because it's so commonplace now, but people are like bootstrap, this, that. All what bootstrapping means for our listeners is that basically literally the word bootstrap means you take some money and you put it in your boots. And then the next time you need that money, it's in your boots, so you take it out. That's literally where the technical term of bootstrapping comes from. So just for our listeners to understand, to demystify some of these words, right?
Yes.
So now if you're a new business owner and you're starting off, don't do what I did in terms of going all in. I had a certain level of safety nets in certain situations that allowed me to assume the risks that I was able to take.
Yeah.
Having the hindsight of experience, do something similar to what you guys are doing where like it's not going to be easy either ways, but you might as well give yourself the peace of mind of having some financial safety net. But on the flip side of that argument, depending upon how you are, as I told you, I'm that individual where if I don't have that test, I'm not studying. If I have that safety net, am I really going to be that hardworking? Sometimes for an individual like myself, I love having no lifelines. Don't have no lifelines. You want a lifeline. But what I'm saying is I want limited lifelines so that it motivates me to be sharp, motivates me to be hungry, motivates me to be like, okay, I got to get up and I got to work 14 hours a day every day and do it. And then don't get burnt out. Because like I've been burnt out a few times in my life. You'll know when you get burnt out. So just care for yourself. And that's where the element of like, personal care and healthcare comes in. Because when you take care of yourself, the chance of you burning out is significantly lower.